Dean Katrina Biso, and of course our guest speaker, Dr. Max Cappuccio. Right. So I guess we can start. Are we good now? Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Kate Francisco from the Department of Manufacturing, Engineering, and Management. So it is my pleasure to welcome you this afternoon as your host. So to our distinctive guests, faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen, it is a beautiful Monday afternoon. But first of all, let us all feel the presence and guidance of the Almighty God with a prayer to be led by Dr. Ron Concepcion.
So stand up. And now let's put ourselves in the holy presence of God. Dear God, our marvelous and everlasting Father, we thank you for bringing us together today to learn from the wisdom and expertise of our guest speaker. We pray that as we listen to his words, we will be open to the new ideas and perspectives, and that we will be inspired to make positive changes in our lives and in our communities. We ask that you bless our guest speaker and give him the strength and clarity of mind to share his knowledge with us in a way that is clear, engaging, and insightful. May his words uplift and inspire us, and may we leave this event with a deeper understanding of the world around us, particularly on the potential impacts of providing cognitive and emotional features to robots. As we prepare to hear from our guest speaker, we ask that you guide our hearts and minds and help us to be attentive and receptive to the ideas that will be shared with us. May we be reminded of the importance of education and the power of knowledge to transform lives. This we all ask in the mighty name of our personal Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Saint John Baptist de la Salle, pray for us. Lead Jesus in our hearts forever.
Alright, so now I want to welcome everyone to the GCOE Distinguished Lecturer Series, Virtuous Robotics, brought to us by the Department of Manufacturing, Engineering, and Management, in collaboration with the University of New South Wales, Canberra. To give her opening remarks, let me request Dr. Katrina Biso, the Dean of the Cappuccio College of Engineering. Let's give her a big hand.
Thank you so much, Kate. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's lecture. It's very nice that you have joined us this afternoon, and we're very fortunate to have with us our distinguished speaker. So in the age of digitalization, and you being the new scholars of the next generation, I think it's very important for you and also for your mentors here to learn more about the technology and how it is currently evolving. We continue to interact with these machines, with the robots, and I think it's important for us to be aware of how we should deal with this technology. I hope you will have a very enjoyable afternoon, and I hope that you will be encouraged to interact and ask your questions later on, because this is a very rare opportunity for all of us. Again, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dean. And now, before we move on to our main agenda, so let's have a quick icebreaker so that we could have chill a bit and have fun. Alright? So I named it the survey game. Okay, so this is very easy. So I'll be giving random statements, and you will just stand up if it implies to you, like it is a yes for you, or sit down if it is a no. Again, you're going to stand up if it is a yes, and you're going to sit down if it is a no. Alright, is that clear? Alright. So, to start, I'll be requesting everybody to please stand up. Alright. Okay. Okay, so here are the statements. So, number one, I am very happy to be in DLSU today. Okay, so I know, of course, every one of us is happy because there's no reason to be sad, right? Okay, number two. basics and fundamentals of robotics. Alright, number 3. I've read all the books of Harry Potter. Oh, so some are yet still standing, so that's great. Huh? So, alright, moving on. Number 4. My birthday is on this month. Alright, so there's one. Don't be shy, come on. Alright, so they're saying happy birthday. Maybe we have celebrate today. Am I right? Yeah, so happy birthday. Alright, number 5. Number 5. I like chocolate ice cream. Yes, of course. I know, because everyone loves chocolate. Alright. Number 6. I have recently tried a new hobby or a new sport. Okay, so some are still yet standing. Okay, so maybe someone who are standing can share their I know. Wala na. Okay. So number 7, I have published a research paper this year already. Have you guys published a research paper? Okay, so it's okay. Okay, some of there are standing, so congratulations guys. I know some of you have published a research paper already. Okay, so more to come, right? This one is really fun. Number 8, my crush is in this room. Don't be shy, come on. My crush is in this room. Okay, so all are still seated. Okay. I respect your response, guys. Okay, number 9. I have renewed my IEEE membership this year. Maybe they're asking, what's IEEE membership? Okay, so I guess because most of our audience here are undergrad, okay, so I'll understand it. Okay, number 10. I want to go to Australia and see a kangaroo. Yeah. So why did I ask it? Because our guest speaker is from Australia. Okay, so thank you so much, Bob. Can we clap for that? Thank you so much for participating in our icebreaker. Alright, so moving right along, let me request Dr. Marla Guillermo, faculty from the Department of Manufacturing Engineering and Management, to introduce our speaker.
So Dr. Cappuccio is a senior researcher in the School of Engineering and IT of University of New South Wales, Canberra. So as a cognitive philosopher and a technology ethicist, his research on intelligent systems is interdisciplinary and aims to integrate phenomenological analysis, empirical experimentation, and synthetic modeling. His work in human performance and human-machine interaction attempts to combine different embodied approaches to cognition. His current research focuses on skill acquisition and disruption, social robotics, theory and ethics of artificial intelligence, and autonomous systems. His early work has focused on mirror neurons theory, joint attention, and deictic pointing, the frame problem of artificial intelligence, and the philosophical foundations of computationalism. During his career, he has produced more than 100 original scientific contributions, including papers in journals, book chapters, collective volumes, special issues of journals, and papers presented at international conferences. He conducts an intense activity as an organizer of academic events, including interdisciplinary workshops, research seminar series, and international conferences like the annual Joint UAE Symposium on Social Robotics. Everyone, let us all welcome with a round of applause our distinguished lecturer, Dr. Max Cappuccio.
Hello. Hello. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I just want to test the Wow, okay, it's a wonderful audience. Honestly, I did not expect such a wonderful welcome. And so thank you very much for having me. I'm very honored by this invitation, but I would like to thank Dean Viso and Professor Lucera, and also the others who helped organizing this opportunity. Today I'm going to discuss a little bit about my work. I'm going to ask you some help to contribute to my work, and I hope very much to learn from you. I think there is a lot I can learn from you, so I would like to encourage you to intervene. I tend to speak too much, so please, if you have questions, remarks, or if you want to contribute, feel free at any time. And if you have the feeling that I'm talking too much, please stop me and just say your opinion, okay, at any time. Okay. So I was introduced as a technology ethicist and a cognitive philosopher. So actually my background is in the social sciences and in the humanities. But I'm the kind of philosopher who works a lot with engineers, roboticists, and also psychologists. So the field of my activity is very much interdisciplinary. So much so that actually I'm embedded in the School of Engineering and IT of University of New South Wales in Canberra. And I'm currently conducting different projects. Some of them are in the field of social robotics. Social robotics, I'm going to say something in 1 minute, but essentially social robotics is the field in which basically robots started being available outside of the factory environment, and they started populating the environment of our offices, our homes, and they started interacting with people, right? So we're talking about robots that are capable to interpret or elicit social responses in humans. They're robots that are designed to interact with humans and make the most out of this interaction. For example, as companions, as co-workers, as helpers, as assistants, and so on. Mainly we find social robots in the context of industries that have a public function, public utility, like healthcare, education. And as I say, they're designed to engage in social interaction, or they're designed to establish and facilitate social relationships among humans. So this is some of the activity I'm currently doing there in this field. I'm also interested in technology ethics. So today I see there is a very beautiful audience of students who are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, and they have a great responsibility because they will define the world of tomorrow, no? And so they will have to face the challenges that the world of tomorrow will bring. Using technology, first of all, learning technology and developing new technological solutions. But learning technology doesn't mean only knowing how to do things. It also means what is the meaning of what we do with this technology. What do we really want? What do we desire? what is important to us, right, to our lives. What are the values that we should embed in this technology? There is one field of philosophy of technology and design which is called value-sensitive design, which means usually we find out about the ethical implications of our technological tools afterwards, when they've already been introduced and they become part of our practices. Value-sensitive design says, well, wait a minute, let's do one step back, let's think in advance, in an ethical way, no? What do we really want this technology to do, for these robots, for example? What do we want them to do for us? And are there certain values that we want these robots to convey, possibly to support, to facilitate, and maybe there are values that we feel that will be threatened by this technology. In that case, we need to step back and reflect a little bit, no? So this is the kind of perspective that I would like to examine and discuss with you today. I just want to mention briefly one of the reasons I'm here. I'm conducting a research travel through different countries of the Indo-Pacific region, and this is part of my current research project, which is sponsored by the Australian Department of Defense. But essentially, my project is about the cultural attitudes of different peoples, different groups about autonomous technologies. Autonomous technologies means any kind of technology that is capable to operate independently, autonomously, so like self-driving cars, for example, but also, social robots, chatbots, so if you are familiar with the ChatGPT and so on, digital avatars, digital agents, okay. The assumption is that the inclination, the propensity to adopt this technology depends very much on our cultural background, no? Our values, what we think, what is important to us. And maybe different groups of people with different cultural backgrounds might have slightly different perspectives or inclinations. So the goal of this research is to collect data about how different nations, people of different nations approach, for example, the introduction of self-driving cars or humanoid robots in the home environment as assistants and so on. So basically, I need to do some surveys and some interviews. I would like to invite all of you, because both the faculty members, the researchers, and also the graduate and undergraduate students, anyway, they are experts in this field now because they work in the technological domain. So if I can ask like 10, 15 minutes of your time, I would like to ask you to fill a survey when you have time. Later I might circulate my email address, and either you can send me an email and I will send you the link of the survey, or with your kind help, I might just circulate this survey monkey link. And it's just about 30, 40 questions about, how do you feel about this or that technology, what expectations you would have, how much trust. So there is a very important discussion about trust. How much trust would you put in, for example, self-driving cars and so on, right? Okay, so this is a little bit just as an introduction. Robotics. Robotics is where basically the area in which I've been working in the last few years. Here we have a couple of questions. First question is, how can we design a robot? So how can we make sure that we, as developers, as designers of robots, are doing the right thing? And how we can be sure that we are following some right principles and we don't do something wrong, something that can harm other people or the society. So at this level, the question is, how do we develop codes of professional conduct that we as technologists and so on can implement to do in the best way our work. But then there is another question, which is more like in the direction of machine ethics, which is how can we design machines that make good moral decisions, or anyway that behave in a good way, or anyway, at least that behave in a way that is not too bad, right? Because when we have to do with autonomous technologies, we're talking about machines that act independently from us. They make decisions on our behalf. There's a big difference between automation and autonomy. Automation, that was the time of the first and second industrial revolution. We have machines that operate repetitively, right? Like a windmill or a combustion engine and so on. So they produce work in a repetitive way, but they don't make decisions. Now we're in the age of the third and the fourth industrial revolution, so we talk about Industry 4.0 and so on. We're talking about machines that not only operate automatically, but they operate autonomously. It means they have to deal with a complex environment, which is much more complex than the factory environment. It's an environment like your home, your office, your classroom, and they need to do the right thing. They need to complete a task in an intelligent way, considering all the possible factors, the other people around them. So they should not harm other people, they should, they must make decisions. How can we make, what principles should we use? Should we embed in these systems to make sure that they do the right thing? One question here is, there is a debate about philosophers of technology. First of all, what kind of entity is a robot? How, from a conceptual point of view, what is a robot exactly? Does anybody have a good definition of a robot? First of all, I want to ask you, how many of you work with some kind of robots, any kind of robot? Good. How do you define a robot? Nobody? But anyway, pretty much, you want to say that? No. But a robot is a system that is autonomous and interacts in an adaptive way with the environment. So it has some perceptual capability, some capability to manipulate or transform the environment, or at least to navigate the environment, and then some capability to interpret the environment, the context, and make decisions. This is already kind of high-level robot. Here, philosophers are divided. There are people who think we should address robots as in an instrumental way. This is an instrumental approach. Robots are like our slaves. We design them to do things for us, so we should not be inclined to sympathize for them. We should not have feelings for them or things like that. Luciano Flores, who is a very famous European robot ethicist of information, he says it's a bit like in the ancient Roman law. There was a law about slaves at that time, and the responsibility we have towards robots today are comparable to those kind of responsibilities that in the ancient times were defined, were attributed to slaves. No? But not everybody agrees with this. On the other side of the spectrum, there are people who think robots have, at least social robots that interact with us as our companions. They have something more, because we develop a relationship with them. We develop some sympathy with them. And even if we know that they're not humans, they're not conscious and so on, we still have to attribute, we still have to value that kind of relationship we have with them. So some philosophers, they went to the point of saying we should attribute rights, some kind of minimal rights to robots, Why? Because rights, anyway, they are attributed to persons, and they say person is a conventional concept. So, for example, the status of person in some legislation is attributed even to companies, corporations. So why can't we attribute the status of a minimal status of person also to social robots? I'm not going to this direction because I don't agree. I don't agree with the first perspective, and I don't agree with the other perspective. I think both of them, they went too far. Now, I want to present a different perspective, and I want to know from you what you think about it, if it seems more reasonable. I call this way virtuous robotics. The idea is this: robots, social robots, are not just instruments, because the moment they become independent, the moment they develop capability to make decisions, they are more than just tools. They become co-workers, they become companions, they have a status that is a bit higher from that of just a tool. At the same time, they're not persons either. I will never go to say that a robot is comparable to a conscious entity or to a human person. So the ethical way to address robots, the way to understand our relationship with robots in an ethical way is this: don't just think what robots can do for you in a utilitarian sense, so how you can use them instrumentally, but think also how robots can be designed to help people become better persons. Okay? So we change the question. It's not anymore what the robot can or should do for us. It's how users can develop themselves and improve their character through their interaction with the robot. A virtuous robot, the way I imagine it, is a robot designed to help humans express their potential, fulfill their good dispositions, and achieve their moral and intellectual maturity to become accomplished persons as citizens, professionals, family members, spouses, or friends. A virtuous robot does not create moral qualities. So if you are a bad person, if you are really a horrible person, I don't think the virtuous robot can really do much to help you. But there are many people who sincerely are making an effort to improve themselves because they believe in self-cultivation. They believe that life involves an effort to become better and better. And here I appeal to virtue ethics. Virtue ethics is a moral doctrine that we find both in the ancient philosophers and also in the Christian thinkers, right? It's inspired by the ideas that all of us are defined by our moral character. And what is that moral character? The moral character is the place of our virtues. What are virtues? Does anybody have an example of virtues? What are the classical examples of virtues? Courage, generosity, compassion, honesty, right? So these are all the good qualities that make you a good person. And if you have a good character, then you have these qualities. Then there is also the opposite of this. What is the opposite of a virtue? How do you call the opposite of a virtue? A vice, right? For example, dishonesty, cowardice, all the opposite of the virtue that we mentioned so far. Now, a virtuous robot is a robot that helps us just for the very way it is designed. Because the interaction with the robot is designed such and such, it will help us to improve ourselves, to improve our virtues. Here there is a nice example. It's a Tartuas robot designed by a Korean group, actually of very young postdoctoral students. They designed these Tartuas with the idea in mind that we know that small children tend systematically to abuse robots. So there are many experiments done, especially in Japan, in Korea, in the malls, they have these robots, and small kids, they go there and they start being naughty and pulling the robot, kicking it, just what kids do, not just because they're naughty. Do we want the robot to be a vehicle for these kids to learn bad behavior like this? No. We would like a robot to be available in public without stimulating the violence, the desire of abuse of the small kids, right? We would like a robot that can teach these kids to learn to be more polite, to be kind, to be, to learn the virtue of kindness, for example. So this touch-wise robot is designed in such a way that if you play with it in a kind way, so interacting, touching it in a certain way, then the robot will move legs and head to engage with the users. But if the kids start hitting the robot, the head of the tortoise will go inside, and also the legs. And the tortoise will not operate anymore, will not offer itself to interaction. The students were smart because they realized that if you beat the robot and the robot retracts the head, the kids, actually they enjoy it, they have even more fun because they see the head going inside and outside. So they calculated, with machine learning algorithm, they calculated the time that the tortoise should keep the head inside to discourage the kids to repeat the beating behavior. So in that way, the kids, they get bored. They say, there is it's just not nice to keep beating. So let's not do it. So there was a way to sort of to train the behavior of the kids through a specific design pattern of the robot. Now, does it make sense? So, let's say not all my colleagues agree that this idea, not everybody would bet on this idea of virtuous robotics. Because some people think, no, let's focus on the utilitarian aspects, what robots can do for us. I think I have at least three arguments that show that robots can produce vicious behaviors, in the sense that they can encourage vice in humans. And my argument is, if robots can encourage and cultivate vice in humans, then it should be possible that they also cultivate virtue if they are properly designed. And here we're a little bit in the field of science fiction. So the three paradigmatic cases that you find both in the literature and in some famous TV series are robots that are humiliated or maybe used for intimate relationship, but in a way that is abusive, no? Or robots that are they exist just for express sadistic desire. So robots that are tortured and killed. I don't know if you ever saw that TV series called Westworld, right? So there is a simulation. It's like an amusement park, right? And people can go there. There is a Far West kind of setting. And people can express all their worst desires and inclination. If they want to kill, if they want to do a robbery, they can do all these things in this virtual world because there are robots there that allow it. So you can kill a robot and so on and so forth. But we don't need to go into into that kind of science fiction scenario. Just imagine that robots that are robot nannies, or robot servants that are designed to be very compliant, very humble, so that they solicit their users to be more and more arrogant, right? And the tendency, so becoming familiar with using these robots could actually encourage a lack of sensibility, the loss of sensibility for the other, the loss of respect, the loss of care, because you're basically using a human-like entity as a tool, right? Of course, you know that the robot is just a machine, but it's a robot that is taking care of you. It's taking care of you like a nanny and so on, so you develop a relationship. Can you mistreat it? Can you say bad word to it? The robot does not have rights, and I don't believe that robots should have rights, but I ask myself, what do I think of a person that systematically abuses, mistreats, says bad words to a robot? Do I want my daughter to spend time with that person? I don't know, let me think 1 minute, right? Because I'm asking a question about the character of that person, right? Even if that person did not do anything illegal or wrong, because the robot is not a person, I'm still asking myself, but is that something ethical, something that we want? So more completely, we could design virtuous robots with different kind of functionalities. So with the purpose to do different things for us. We can design, for example, robots that can assist athletes, sports people during training, or students during the most intense phases of their study, encouraging them, giving them motivation, soliciting their sense of pride. We can have robots that support the acquisition of particular skill sets that are relevant to self-development, like linguistic or artistic expression. We can design robots that recognize and discourage negative character traits like greed and envy. Imagine a robot that accompanies you as a companion and reminds you when you are behaving in an impolite way. And so on and so forth. Even more specifically, we can design these robots with five roles, interactive roles. First, as a diary or confidant, you speak with the robot about your ethical, your moral doubts. And the robots does not really, I assume a robot is not really capable, a robot is not a moral authority, right? A robot will never be capable to tell you what is right and what is wrong. But a robot can be a moment, can be like a mirror, an occasion in which you can reflect about yourself, and you ask a question not to receive the answer from the robot, but because you're asking the question to yourself, right? Or it can be a robot designed as an assistant, as a coach, as a motivator. It can be designed as an apprentice. So in that case, you have the task, you are tasked to tell the robot what is right and what is wrong. You can imagine a robot a little bit like Pinocchio. Pinocchio is like is a puppet, but it's like a small child who does not know what is right and what is wrong. And he will ask you, Master, what should I do? What is the right thing to do here now? And then you will have to think, well, I think, Pinocchio, the right thing to do is this and that. You should go to school, because learning and so on is good for your future. Or you could have, this is a little bit more tricky, but imagine a robot as an informer or scarecrow. Every time you steal sweets and ice cream from the fridge, the robot will tell mommy, and that of course is going to discourage you, and it will be a moment in which you become more responsible, or at least this is the hope. Or, and this has already been experimented, a robot as mood setter. We know, because there are experiments about this, that kindness, gentleness, respect are contagious. So if you are in a room with a person who is extremely gentle and kind, all the other people will be automatically will have an inclination to become gentle and kind and so on. In the case of conflict management, have a robot who is so perfectly behaving, always patient, calm, and speaking in a respectful and kind way, can set the mood for the conversation, therefore helping people to have the right kind of interaction. Okay, there are a number of objections to virtuous robotics. They are both, some are technical, some are practical, some are simply the technology is not there yet. Some objections are like, does moral character really exist, and is it something that can be cultivated? Do we think that the robots has the moral authority or the force to encourage that kind of? So I accept that there are a number of issues that we need to face here, and it's not that simple. There is some methodological question, which is how do we measure improvement in moral character? That requires long-term longitudinal studies comparing the behavior of people across different conditions in a kind of quite long time frame, right? So these are difficulties to be considered. And this is the first part of my talk. It's sort of set in the framework, and now I'm going to tell you something more specific. Why I think virtuous robotics is going to work, and my proposal is this: the secret of virtuous robotics is in the eyes of the robot. Humanoid robots, unlike any other interactive technologies, look at you. They have eyes, right? And this makes a huge difference. Because robots interact with us, they don't just see us like cameras, but they also look at us. It means they can gaze, they can use their gaze, they produce gazing behavior to interact with us. And we feel the eyes of the robot on us. And that creates all kinds of behavioral and psychological effects on us. Now here, what exactly is an eye, or what can be perceived as an eye, is a kind of a complex question. There are examples of very simple interactive robots that are only partially humanoids, like this lamp. This is an interactive lamp, the one on the right, that follows you and directs the attention towards the target of your attention, illuminating, helping you to illuminate the environment around you. But the thing is, even if it's just a lamp, it feels terribly anthropomorphic. So we really feel there is something humanoid in its behavior, because it really feels like it is looking somewhere, right? And this is a question from the point of view of value-sensitive design. We, as creators of robots, as designers of robots, have a responsibility. Which kind of values do we want to embed in these machines, considering that they will look at us and that they will interact with us using their eyes to express emotion, and also that they have the power to affect our emotions with their eyes looking at us. And here you can find many, many examples of possible design of eyes. Eyes can be realized with any different kind of material implementation. So you can have just digital eyes, or eyes that are just drawing on the robot's face, or you can have more complex eyes that really have cameras, small cameras embedded in them, and they can rotate and they can have eyebrows, so they can have some kind of complex form of anthropomorphic communication, bodily communication. And here I get philosophical again, and apologies for this, but I think this is interesting. What is the function of gaze in the social context? Gaze has a very, very important function for our social our social life, our social interactions. Actually, it has three different functions. One is communicative. For example, deictic reference, joint attention, when we point to a communal object of interest, right? And both you and you are directing our gaze toward the same object, and then I look at you and you look at me, and we know that we are sharing attention toward the same thing. This is very important. Joint attention is a key feature of psychological development. It usually develops together with the capability of pointing between 6 and 12 months of age, and the lack of joint attention and pointing is diagnostic of autism or other pathologies of social cognition. So it's very important. No? Then there is a recognitive function, which is when with gaze we create a relationship of mutuality between me and you. So there is a me and there is a you, and there is a you looking at me. And I know that I'm looking at you because I know that you're looking back at me, right? So it's like looking. The function of this is recognition at a distance. Here we establish roles and identities because we occupy two different sides of this reciprocal relationship. I am someone for you, like you are someone for me, and there is reciprocity, so there is a symmetry, because in principle we can exchange our positions, our roles. And third, there is an introspective function, and this is where I would like to, the aspect that I would like to stress. The other's gaze acts as a mirror in which I see myself. So the gaze of the other is an opportunity for self-awareness. I recognize myself through your recognition, the recognition that you're doing of me. I must imagine myself through your eyes. If I want to know what you think of me, I must imagine what you're seeing through your eyes. You make me become who I am, someone before you, for you, right? So in a way, each of us, I am what you make me become the moment you're looking at me. And because now I have so many eyes of me and so many people of me, I'm not the same person that I was half an hour ago when I was alone and nobody was looking at me. Now I feel that pressure, I feel that responsibility, I feel also that kind of incentive and motivation that I receive because so many people are looking at me. I just want to mention very briefly that in psychoanalysis and in philosophy, these ideas have been explored for decades during the 20th century. Jacques Lacan, he introduced this idea of the mirror stage. So the idea is that a small child, they learn to represent themselves when they encounter their own gaze in the mirror, right? So the birth, the origin of self-consciousness is the moment in which the child sees, it meets its own gaze in the mirror. And usually this is conveyed, this is facilitated by the mother. The mother goes in front of the mirror with the child and helps the child to see itself, to encounter its own gaze. And this is a crucial moment for developmental psychology. Jean-Paul Sartre, phenomenologist, French phenomenologist, he has introduced another idea, which is our consciousness has two levels. A pre-reflective consciousness, where we perceive the world around ourselves in a simple, direct way, and then there is a reflective consciousness, when we perceive the world and we are so aware that we are perceiving the world. So there is some self-awareness attached to the awareness of the world. And this comes again when we become object for the gaze of someone else. So Sartre says, imagine you're looking at the world through a keyhole, right? And you forget entirely about your body. Everything you know is what you see through the keyhole. That's a pre-reflective consciousness. You don't exist, so to speak. There is only what you are experiencing. But then imagine that through the keyhole you see someone gazing at you. You see some eyes looking at you. And then you become someone for those eyes, right? I now exist as myself. I see myself because somebody sees me. So before I was the subject of vision, I was looking at someone else. Now I become an object of the experience of someone else. And this is a crucial moment because reflective consciousness is a key moment for a development of moral consciousness. Many philosophers say that we become moral agents the moment we start experiencing shame. Actually, it's more common. There is a shame and guilt. You know the difference between shame and guilt? But essentially, shame is when you feel naked in front of the gaze of someone else, right? And you feel inappropriate, you feel limited, but that's because you feel an object, a body that stands in front of someone else. You are powerless because you are something subject to the experience of someone else. Some philosophers say this shame is the moment that creates the possibility of guilt. Guilt is the consciousness that you did something wrong, that you are inappropriate. And this consciousness is a key for developing a moral awareness. So the awareness that you, with your actions, with your thought, are a moral agent which is capable to do right things and wrong things. So if that is right, the moment robots start looking at us, they trigger something very important, right? They remind us that we are not just users of technology, we are just human, we are also human beings. And this technology is reminding ourselves that we have some moral responsibility. Now let's look at some experiments to see how technology has been trying to develop the gaze of humanoid robots. First of all, blinking times. You would think blinking is something trivial. Actually, it's absolutely important to have some ecologically convincing, persuasive simulation of the ocular behavior. Because look at the people around you. No? They blink their eyes, yes, with a certain pattern, but it's not too repetitive. If it was too repetitive, it seems mechanical. And then you feel some kind of repulsion. It does not feel natural, right? But it's not even random. It's not entirely random. So these scientists, this group of social robotics of the Italian Institute of Technology, they started the blinking patterns in humans, and they reproduce it with an algorithm in the gaze of the humanoid robot, which is ICAB. ICAB is this small humanoid robot, very complex actually, very expensive, that has a huge number of degrees of freedom, and maybe it's a research robot, which is used by a group of, I think, 35 different universities, mainly in Europe and in Japan. And this ICAP has the features of a small kid. You know? One of the most interesting features is not only the anthropomorphic body with legs and arms and so on, but the fact that it has very complex eyes with eyelids and eyebrows, and the cameras of the robot are inside the eyes. So actually, when you look at the eyes, you know that the eyes are looking back at you. And this is very important. Moreover, the the range of possibility of expression, behavioral expression with the eyes is huge, right? Compared to other robots. Here they develop a complex algorithm that basically they call it conversational gaze. Conversational gaze control for robots with physical eyes. The idea is that, I put it in very simple terms, the blinking behavior of the eyes reflects a number of factors in the social environment. The temperature of the interaction, the kind of engagement, the kind of activities, whether we are targeting, whether there is something in the conversation that requires emphasis, so at that time you blink in a stronger way. So conversation, speech, behavior, external environment, and interaction, they are all linked, and they're expressed by the eyes in the way the eyes basically communicate with the users. Here there was another study, this is a review of different designs of eyes in social robots. By comparing 16 eye designs, the researchers found that the more lifelike the design of the eyes was, the higher the robot was rated on personable qualities, and the more suitable it was perceived to be for to operate in the home environment. Eye design did not affect how professional and how suitable for the office the robot was supposed to be for some reason. This is quite interesting. Then my colleague, Christoph Bartnek in New Zealand, he's a very important social robot, and he always comes with very original and provocative ideas. He tested the responses of people when they were going to the doctor. And when they were going to the doctor, they were asked to undress themselves. But when they were undressing themselves, there was a small robot looking at them. And he compared the response of these people when they were undressing themselves in front of a robot, in front of another object, and simply not. And they found that basically through the bodily behavior and the bodily expression of the users, you could tell the level of embarrassment, so they developed a system to tell how embarrassed the person was, and the person was clearly more embarrassed when the robot was looking at them. So this means that, what does it mean? It means a robot is not just like a neutral piece of machinery, because you can have other machines, you can have other technologies that do the same. They record you, for example, a camera, but that is not like having a robot that is looking at you. However, to be honest, this experiment lacks the comparison with the camera, so we cannot tell whether undressing while being in front of a camera would be more embarrassing than undressing in front of a robot. Okay, this one, let me see, I need to remember 1 minute what it was about. This was with now, another kind of small humanoid robot. The researcher investigated the impact of 3 levels of robot gaze: averted, constant, and situational, upon participants' likelihood of trusting a humanoid robot's opinion in a cooperative visual tracking task. So basically here, the human users were supposed to play a game, cooperative game with the robot. And they were asked if they wanted to trust the advice given by the robot. So the robot would say, do this or do that. And the humans is asked, do you trust the advice of the robot? Yes or no? The advice was given by the robot while the robot was gazing to the users, but this gaze came in 3 different modalities, which could be be either averted, so indirect, or constant, basically fixating, or situational, which is depending on the conditions of the game. Well, the robot acting as a confederate will disagree with participants' responses on certain trials and suggest a different answer. Participants were most likely to be persuaded by a robot which only gazed during disagreements, situational gaze. And moreover, interestingly, it was found there was a gender effect. Females were least likely to trust a robot which stared at them. And but there were no differences between averted and situational gaze. So they found this effect only in female participants. If the robot was staring at them while giving them the advice, the female user would not trust the robot, because probably that kind of gaze, looking, fixating, like this, it has something repulsive or even worrying. Okay, this is an experiment done by Ronan Harkin, who is another famous American social roboticist. They use a humanoid robot as a bystander in interactions between patients and caregivers. And in particular, Harkin's team has used these robots in a number of different professional scenarios with patients, psychiatric patients, and counselors or doctors taking care of them. It was very interesting because the robot, so basically imagine there is a patient sitting on a couch and the doctor sitting on a chair in front of him. The robot is just in the middle and is not doing anything. The robot is simply moving the head to follow the conversation. So the robot is simply a bystander, does not intervene. Nonetheless, it was found that the interaction between the patient and the caregiver was modulated importantly by the presence of the robot, and in particular a certain kind of unpleasant behavior. So when the patients or the psychiatrists were going to lose their calm, the presence of the robot would sort of help them to return to a more normal kind of interaction. The point is that the robot can make you think that it has that emotion, but it's not actually feeling anything. So if interactions start to deteriorate, because they start having a fight, for example, the robot would nudge things back in a better direction by quizzically looking at the person who is losing empathy. So the robot will look at you like, what are you doing? Are you sure you know what you're doing? And apparently that is enough to trigger some kind of response. Here we have more experiments showing that the robot gaze can have psychophysiological effects on the response of human, similar to the effects produced by the gaze of a human. So at least there are similarity, although maybe the intensity is not the same. And this again done by the team of the Italian Institute of Technology with ICAP. Gaze cues are processed as social signals. This is interesting because it was done with electroencephalography. So basically with EEG connected to the scalp of the users, they measure the brain activity of the users while a robot was gazing at them. So volunteers played a game of chicken, for example, to allow a car collision or deviate to avoid it, against a humanoid robot sitting opposite them. Between rounds, players had to look at the robot, which would sometimes look back and other times look away. The scientists collected data on behavior and neural activity via EEG. The human brain processes the robot gaze as a social signal, So that means that all the brain area, the kind of brain patterns that are active normally when we engage in social activity, became active also when we see that the robot is looking at us. And that signal has an impact on the way we are making decisions. So not only the brain patterns, but the behaviors, the decision, the patterns of decision making is affected by the fact that the robot is looking at us. For example, the strategies we deploy in the game and also on our responses. The mutual gaze of the robot affect the decisions by delaying them. This is interesting. There is a delay because when the robot is looking at you, that reflective consciousness is activated, which means more computation, more time to make the decision. That doesn't mean necessarily the decision is a better decision, but at least it's a more considerate decision, right? The mutual gaze of the robot affected decision by delaying them, so humans were much slower in making the decisions in the game when the robot was looking at them. Okay, just a few more. Robots making eye contact are engaging. The engaging role of eye contact in human-robot interaction. A humanoid robot was evaluated by users, depending on whether establish eye contact or look elsewhere. We altered the level of predictiveness of the robot gaze direction. Participants were sensitive to eye contact and felt more engaged with the robot when it is established eye contact, and the majority attributed higher degree of human likeness in the eye contact condition. This was independent of predictiveness of the gaze cue. Eye contact has positive impact on robots' perceived socialness. So this is done with asking surveys to the participants. And again, here we have another experiment with the EEG. Eye contact during joint attention with the humanoid robot modulates oscillatory brain activity. Here, the brain responses were examined during eye contact with the humanoid robot. And again, participants rated eye contact as more engaging and responded with higher desynchronization of alpha band activity in left frontocentral and central electric clusters when the robot established eye contact. And finally, this experiment that I did with my colleague Omar Mubin and my colleagues in the United Arab Emirates, our question was, well, if a robot has such an impact on our moral awareness, can we use it as an invigilator to monitor students during an exam? Because, if students are under high pressure in some context, they might cheat. So we used these small robots, and we left some students in a room with them. We compared three conditions with the robot, with the human invigilator, and with nobody. Here, to be honest, the experiment produced a little bit of mixed results in the sense that we did not see really a significant variation in cheating, but that is probably because the students were really very honest and maybe they did not have enough pressure to cheat in the first place. But we noticed that in the robot condition, so when the students were left alone with the robots, they tended to chat more, probably because the presence of the robot was not very imposive. It's just a small robot in the end, it's not a very scary robot. If it was like a Robocop, like pretending to shoot you or something like that, then it would have produced much more scary results. But here the students were mostly entertained by the presence of the robot. So what we learned from this study is that the design of the embodied presence, the physical presence, also plays an important role in addition to the gates. Okay, then are more studies about the social persuasiveness based on gaze and proximity, but I will skip this. So here there is a number of research questions that people may want to address to expand this research. What exactly, when a robot is looking at you, what is affecting your behavior or your moral stance? Is it, what does affect you more? The fact that the robot is gazing at you, so there is a movement of the eyes, and you see that movement of the eyes, or it is the awareness of being looked at, being recorded. Because you can be aware that the robot is looking at you without looking at the robot looking at you. For example, I can tell you, look, behind that mirror, that is a fake mirror, and behind that mirror there is a robot, and that robot is looking at you now. Is it going to affect you like a robot that is really looking at you? So exactly what is the component that triggered that response to you? An interesting question from an AI perspective is, can we build robots or artificial intelligences that learn self-consciousness like Lacan says? Like a child that looks at himself in the mirror. Is this self-consciousness something that can be acquired with a certain developmental pathway by exposing the machine to consistent experience of itself, self-observation? And trust. Today there is a lot of debate about human-machine interaction, about trust. How does trust modulate the emotional responses to robot gaze? Is a trusted robot more intimidating than a non-trusted one, and so on and so forth? Then one last point is an ethical concern. So here it seems I'm suggesting that it is desirable to build robots that populate our world, our environment, and that look at us to improve our behaviors or to solicit moral responses in us. But you might say, do we really want that? I mean, consider that we already live in the world in which the presence of cameras, monitoring, it's already becoming quite invasive, quite intrusive, and we are so to the point in which we are asking ourselves, how much do we want to tolerate, not to be always monitoring, always recorded? In addition to this, do we also want to have robots that look at us and point the finger telling us, you have to do this, you have to do that? But not really this way, but they will sort of be positioned there to remind us something about our own behavior. So here there is an issue of privacy, which is key to flourish as moral agents. And then there is an issue that if it is done through coercion, so in an invasive way, then that kind of virtuous robotics will not be really virtuous, because the moral responses provoked by fear or shame are not truly moral. No? It's more like being constantly under pressure and being forced to behave in a certain way without your will. So here, these are all the questions that it's food for thought. I don't expect to exhaust this topic here, but I would like very much to know what you think about it. I've been focusing on humanoid robots, so robots that really have a gaze, they look at you, but you can imagine something analogous with other kinds of AI-based technologies like chatbots, chat GPTs. Chatbots, they could be designed, they could be programmed to follow you, to remind you things, and in a sense you will become the object of the agency of the chatbot. Is it something desirable? Is it something that we are ready to accept in our lives? So these are all questions that I would be happy to discuss with you, and I want to know what you think and how all this looks from your perspective. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello. Thank you so much, Prof. Max, for that wonderful discussion about virtual robots. All right, so now I'll be opening the floor for our Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, you can raise your hand so that ushers on the sides can go to you, okay, so that you can ask a question. So is there any questions? All right, so where's the mic? Oh, here.
Thank you very much for that very interesting topic. It's really piqued my interest. So, along with when you were defining what a virtuous robot is, do you think it's possible that later in the future we can delegate important decision-making tasks to a robot and still maintain that definition of it being virtuous?
Well, I think you don't want to delegate important decisions to a robot that is not virtuous, right? Or you don't want to delegate decisions that could have a negative effect on the character of people or the character of the society in general. Now, regarding delegating moral decisions, that is a very, very difficult and very important question. No? Based on what you know on the latest generation of artificial intelligence, and I'm referring explicitly to large language models, right? So these days, everybody can insert some prompts and have a conversation with the chatbot, like ChatGPT. And you will see that the capability to examine, to analyze ethical issues is quite sophisticated. I mean, it's definitely impressive compared to what it was 1 year ago. So let's say 90%, 95% of the times, the chat will say stuff that makes sense. And you would say, yes, this is reasonable. The problem is that 5%, 3%, 1%, in which the chat will say something horrible that we will never accept. So there is an element of unpredictability in all deep learning and machine learning based forms of intelligence. And that, I think, is going to be the greatest challenge for all the developers, because they will need to put some supervisory mechanism, some guardrails, some inhibition. The problem is that there is a huge black box problem, because we really don't know how the network works once it has been trained. So there are some responses that are, probably it's going to be very problematic to prevent in advance all the undesirable behaviors.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask another question.
Sure.
So, what is your take on self-driving cars? Are they virtuous or not?
That's an interesting question. Usually there is a big debate in machinetics about how self-driving cars should deal with complex moral dilemmas, such as, okay, the car knows that an accident is going to happen. It cannot break down in time. So someone, unfortunately, is going to die. But the car can change direction at the last second. So instead of killing one young person, it will kill 3 old people. Which one is, the MIT has that systematic surveys about this, and it has found also cultural differences. So people of different countries, different demographics, they tend systematically to answer in a different way. So, which is what values do we want to embed in the intelligence of the cars? That is a terrible question. And I also believe that asking people is not necessarily the right thing to do, because not necessarily asking a large number of people, like crowdsourcing, will give you the right answer. Maybe it's better to ask a few experts who can think based on principles, right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Alright, thank you so much, Sir Martin. By the way, if you're going to ask questions, please state your name first and the department where you belong. Alright, so is there any question? There, I see hand there.
Good afternoon. I'm Joseph from the Department of Philosophy. I wonder how will you address the objection of philosophers that robots or the AIs do not so much affect our virtue or our vice, but they only amplify our already existing virtue or vice. We think that this is important for your research because, as you also recognized in your experiment about the cheating, the students, and then you're monitoring the cheating, you admitted that perhaps the reason why they did not cheat is it's not because of the robot, but because it is already their virtue not to cheat.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Very nice question. Thank you very much. Okay. I believe that the functionality of these virtuous robots is limited, so we cannot expect everything from them. I think they would work only if there is already a previous understanding, a previous agreement on the side of the users. They must have accepted they want to engage in a path of self-improvement and moral cultivation. If somebody does not want to be virtuous, I don't think a robot is going to persuade them. That is, I'm pretty much sure about that. That to change a person with a bad character into a person with a good character requires much deeper kind of effort that involves the community, the society, the religious counselors, the family, the friends, and so on. The possibilities given to the robot, from what I think, are much more limited. It's just more like, okay, I'm an athlete, I'm a sports person, and I train myself to work harder and harder every morning, to run faster and faster. The robot is just there to help me to have the right diet, the right training, to go to sleep at the right time, you know? So it's an assistive function. In that case, I think it can work. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for that question. Okay, any more questions from the group? All right, I see a hand over there.
Hello, my name is Leander Roque, and I'm from BEM department, and I just like to ask, what inspired you to research about virtuous robots?
Yeah, I tell you how I started. So I was with a group of people who wanted to use robots to help autistic children. And because there is already a very large literature about humanoid robots being used to help autistic children to train to develop their social skills, in particular to have longer and more intense engagement, social engagement with with other people. Autistic children tend to avoid, for example, the gaze of other people. They tend to avoid social engagement. But it was found, we didn't find this was already found many years ago, just a decade ago, that autistic children, they find more tolerable the interaction with humanoid robots. And they can engage also in eye contact with robots and so on. I participated in a study in a educational facility in Abu Dhabi, specifically a facility for autistic children. And this humanoid robot now was programmed with a system to measure attention and social attention in particular, and to measure how it evolved, the patterns of attention through time. And when we went there, the personnel, the nurses working there, they were amazed because they found that these children that had never really responded socially or expressed really kind of social behavior, suddenly they started being really excited about the interaction with the robot and so on. So now, I don't want to suggest that autism is like a problem of moral character. That's not the point. No? But the reasoning here is analogical. So, if we can improve social skills through the action of a robot, then maybe we can act also on other elements of the human behavior and the human mind by cultivating what we think is desirable and good and helping people to flourish, right? So maybe if we can use a robot for that, also because the platform, the software was the same. This system to measure social attention, we implemented it also in the robot invigilator that was used in the classroom to keep track of the behavior of the students. So then it became a broader kind of research with a broader scope. And then I asked myself, what is really the question that we want to address here? I think the most important question is, can we build robots that help people to flourish and to cultivate their moral character? Thanks.
All right, that was great. Thank you so much.
Can I ask 2 more questions actually? So, I'm so sorry. What do you think? I'm sorry. How do you think humanoid robots will be able to advance and evolve in the future? And what are you most excited to? What are you most excited about it?
Okay, I'm terribly excited about ChatGPT and the large language model. No, because look, during the last few years, I've been following all the hype for new technologies and so on. So the metaverse, I don't think it's worth dedicating why it's. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be anything exciting. Self-driving cars. We know that most companies they're divested from level 4 and 5 autonomy because it's too far in the future. It's not going to happen anytime soon. So now they're focused on level 3 autonomy, which is a level of assisted technology. It's not the car is not going. And also Tesla has been showing some serious problems and so on. So autonomous cars, they're going to develop, but it's going to take time. Social robots, they're good, they're very interesting. The problem is that we're still lacking a killer application in the sense that many of these robots, they are designed, produced, they sell 1,000 pieces, and then they shut down. So there is not really a big industry for humanoid robots yet. But ChatGPT, the moment it came out, and I started chatting it, I said, wow, here we really crossed the Rubicon. Here we have something really new, and the potential is huge. Now they're talking about implementing chatbot with humanoid robots, and there are at least 3 ways to implement it. One is very simple. You put humanoid robot, and you put the microphone with the chatbot, so basically you can have a conversation with the humanoid robot that is implementing the chatbot. This is the simplest way. It's like adding, it's a plus to the old humanoid social robot, right? But this is just the beginning. What you can have is level 2. You can give orders, instructions, very complex instructions to the robot using chatbot as an interface. So you say, please paint the wall of my room using this color, this method, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to program the robot. Programming is done. You don't need to program anymore. You just need the chatbot. It will translate the instructions, all the step-by-step procedure for us, and we'll tell the robot what to do, right? So the chatbot becomes the brain of the robot. But again, this is not even the best part. The third part is you use the body of the robot to train the chatbot to learn more about the world. Because the biggest limitation of the chatbot is that it has only linguistic knowledge. So it's knowledge mediated by all the language, all the things that people have been writing and saying on the web, no? So that is how they train the neural network. But the chatbot does not have any direct experience, and there are signs of this. There are many limitations that they show that the chatbot does not have a common sense, does not have a familiarity with the physical world. Okay. Now imagine that you use the experience acquired by the robot to enrich the information, the data set available to the neural network trained as a large language model. Then I think we will get really close to general artificial intelligence. Or at least it is the thing, the most promising prospect I can imagine at the moment to develop general artificial intelligence.
Okay, so this is my final question. So, since you talked about how ChatGPT is like, you're very excited for ChatGPT, it actually gave me an idea because I was watching this one playthrough of this video game. It's called Detroit Become Human, and like, it gave me like an idea that do you think like in the future like robots will actually be able to learn how to feel, so like they can fall in love, and in a sense we humans will also fall in love with them?
I don't know, is it something you desire? I don't want to say you, in general, is it something we as humans would find desirable? I don't know.
No, for I guess not because of me, but like I have friends who are very very lonely.
Yeah, we all have one of those friends. Now there are serious applications of social robots for people who suffer from loneliness, isolation. I believe in that case the robot will never be a replacement for human sociality. It's a it's a facilitator and not a replacement. So it can be a first step then to get closer again to all the human beings, but it should never be a way to, it should not be an excuse to retract from social interaction with others. If I can say so. But I would be quite liberal about the development of applications, and but the implications should be considered very carefully.
Okay, thank you so much.
Alright, thank you for the questions. Is there any additional questions left for you guys? Okay, I see another hand. Maybe this will be the last one.
There. Fourth row.
Hello. My name is Jello. I'm a second year student, also studying MEM. My question is, do you think there is a limit on what humans can do with robots in terms of its development in any sector? Oh, sorry. Do you think there is a limit on what humans can do with robots in terms of its development in many different sectors? Sorry? Or is there is there a time where we should think that we should wait? And there's a limit if
You mean like a moral limit, like this direction we shouldn't go this way.
yeah, if
We should put like
A border.
threshold, and say we will not pass this
yeah,
threshold.
yes.
Well, I think all these technologies in the end they should be human-centric. So in the end they serve the purpose of human flourishing. So the moment there is the process of alienation, which the human becomes a tool serving the technology, that is bad. That can be quite complicated because the more you own the technology, the more the technology ends up owning you. So the relationship you define with technology continuously redefine itself. So it's difficult to predict in advance. But I would say the principle should be always the human and at the center.
All right, thank you so much. So again, can we give a warm round of applause to our guest speaker, Dr. Max Cappuccio, for that very wonderful discussion and even our open forum. All right, so now to officially give an appreciation to our speaker, we will now proceed in the awarding of certificates. So with that, let me invite on the stage Dr. Ryan Becerra to award the certificate. Okay, so let me read the content of the certificate. Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Dr. Massimiliano Cappuccio in recognition for his valuable contributions as a distinguished lecturer during the GCOE Distinguished Lecturer Series for his lecture entitled From Shame to Virtue Cultivation, Humanoid Robots and Interaction Through Grace Behavior, held at the Virtual 4th floor Henry C. Senior Hall, De La Salle University, given on the 30th day of March 2023. Signed by Dr. Ryan Ray Becerra and Dr. Gatlin Avisa. Let's give a big hand again to And for our closing remark, let me invite Dr. Ryan Becerra.
Hi, good afternoon. Such a great afternoon. Seeing a lot of happy faces this afternoon. Isn't it just something new after 3 years of being confined in our homes? In the department, at least of the Department of Manufacturing, Engineering and Management, I believe this is the first time that we had this large gathering of students and faculty members. So with that, I would like to, can we give ourselves a round of applause? Okay, so first of all, I would like to give special thanks to Doc Max. Actually, it was Dean K. Aviso who connected Doc Max to us. And I was really excited during that time because I've learned that Doc Max is not actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Doc Max, he's not an engineer. Am I correct? He
enrolled in a program to become a PhD on computer science.
Okay. Okay, so next year, Doc Max will be a PhD in computer science. So let's put our fingers crossed. But from what I understand, of course, he introduced himself as a technology, a social scientist plus technology. And then, actually, when I was doing back and forth, sending emails to him, he was actually very humble. He told me, correct me, Doc, but this is my impression. He's a bit worried that we might not, have interest in the topic that we will discuss because this is not purely technical. But as we've seen, and as I listen, the topic that he talked about this afternoon is very relevant to our practice, not only to manufacturing, engineering, and management, not only in engineering or robot scientists, but it is a generally people will have interest. What are the social elements or social dimension of technology that we've been doing? And I've been a faculty member for more than 20 years, and this is the first time that an expert in that field talk about this. That's why I'm very, individually, as I sit there, I was all ears with Doc Max. Of course, I went out to take a break, but every time I listen to him, I always take note. Maybe I've wrote 2 dozens of terms that I haven't heard before. Have you guys? Are you the same as me? Learning something, maybe a dozen of new things today. So with that, Doc Max, I really would want to take this opportunity on behalf of everybody to thank you. And I hope this is not the first. I hope this will be the first of many collaborations. And Doc Max, a while ago we were talking to him over lunch. He is really open in collaborating with De La Salle University. And with that, guys, I know some of you will have interest in this field, and some of you guys are working maybe in your thesis, in your capstone. So this is very relevant. Maybe you can apply the things that Doc Max talked about this afternoon in your study. So I don't want to prolong my speech. So I would like to thank Doc Max, of course, the organizing committee, and lastly, of course, the people who showed up today. Because I was talking to Doc Max a while ago, I mentioned to him, we may not be able to fill up this room. Because we were transitioning from online, going to face, and deep in my heart, I don't know if people will show up. So I'm very happy today. All of you came for Doc Max, so thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Doc Ryan. And now we will proceed to our photo ops. I'll be inviting the faculty. Okay. Okay, so Prof. Max, we have a token for you. So I'll be inviting Doc Marilet, and Doc Ryan, and Doc Argel as well. Doc Argel, ayun po si Doc Argel. And Sir Lawrence po and Brother Kina. Okay, so guys, please proceed po in the stage. And please prepare also all the faculty for a photo opportunity followed by our groupie. Yes, let's have a photo op. Please, all faculty, the people, please form. Alright, smile. Okay, and please join other faculty po, and organizers as well. Please po, make it a little fast.
Press. Back.
So for our groovy, let me request the photographers to be at the stage here, at the platform, and can we face the opposite side?
We'll just stay here.
Yes. Or a bit backward po. And some students can go forward, please guys, especially those who are on the back. Or you can stand, please, guys. And let your face be visible at some point. Come on, guys. Let's take this opportunity to have a photo with Prof. Max. Hello. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. So, I guess that wraps up our event for today. We are happy and grateful to all of you for your time and dedication and showing your support to this kind of activity. Thank you very much and keep safe.
Kailan magiging available? Mamayang gabi kasi sa ano ba, graduate class mo. Ayaw namin kasi ayaw nang nag-zoom baka mamaya walang pumunta rito. Sabi mo naman sa akin, kasi mamayang gabi sila.
Bravo,